Hello and welcome back to another one of Henry Weston's Old Mate, the podcast. We're going to be talking football. You'll see Jay on your screen. If you're watching us on YouTube, he's adorned in some Man United clobber. I have not because it's too fucking stinking hot. Let's not get into that. If you're watching us on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you are listening to us on a podcast provider such as Apple or Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Music, I think we're on all of them now. Click follow, share us around, and leave us a 5-star review if you'd be so kind. We have a Buy Me a Coffee page set up that will help allow you to make a small donation if you really enjoy the content. Let's go over to a new guest. And let Matt, anyone who's seen some of my other content will know Matt. I've done some work with Matt before, but for his sins, he is also a Man United fan. Liam is unable to join us. He is predisposed this evening. So Matt has jumped in and probably will jump in going forward as well. Matt, give yourself a quick introduction with regards to Man United, and then we'll get on to the rest of the chat, mate.
Sure. Well, it's good to be here. We're back. We've beaten Liverpool to win the Bangkok Centenary Cup. So everything's moving forward as we expected. But no, I've been a Man United fan in my entire life, but dating back to the 80s. And the only real reason is because my brother Dan supported Liverpool. So when they were winning the league all the time, there's only one thing they didn't do, and that was beat Man United. So it made sense to have the bragging rights over my brother. And so then we lived through the glory years where we get told we're Southern softies and glory hunters, but who cares? And now we have to suffer through some of the ignominy of what we've had in the last couple of years. So all swings and roundabouts, but hopefully we've got a few things to talk about tonight, including the high pressing Anthony Martial.
Oh, God. Yeah. No, very good, mate. Yeah, well, like I say, it's good to have you on. Great to see you again. Let's check in with our other guests. Ali Milroy, it's cricket season, but there's always time for football chat. How are you doing, mate?
I'm good, yeah. I've had a little watch on MUTV, watched the first few games, a few nice signs, a few things to look at, a few discussion points. So going into a new season with lots of hope, as we always do.
Jay is a man who is always full of hope and expectation. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm because of
Well, Jay, let's expand on just how good you are, mate. So we've got a few things to sort of chat about tonight. I want to have a chat about the off-season, obviously the new managers, some new signings and potential new signings. The captaincy, I think, could be an interesting chat. Mr. Maguire has been sort of confirmed as the club captain, but I think that might be subject to change. I'm obviously not the Man United manager, but I think that'll be that. And Ronaldo will need some discussing as well amongst a few others. Jay, for anyone who might be watching us for the first time, I just thought maybe we could get the thoughts of you three guests, or you three regulars, or two regulars and a new regular being Matt. We don't want to go over what we've got covered in the last 4 or 5 episodes too much, but can you just give us a brief overview of last season as a Man United fan? One highlight and one not so highlight. I've written low light. I don't even know if low light's a word, but just talk us through it as quickly as you can, mate.
Personally, for me, I think they both come into the same answer. The highlight was Ronaldo coming back, and the low light was him being here.
Right.
In ways, because I think it's just been too much distraction. It's not his fault. He's world class. He's going to score goals wherever he is, and he's here. There's hope we can use you to, but we just have to play to his way of football.
Yeah.
And too many, threw too many people out of joint. I mean, Martial just went off. No hope. He's a real confidence player, and it looks like he's got him playing again. Personally, I'd drive him to the airport, Ronaldo, and thanks very much, and then just go again, because this fella seems to be the highlight, if you like, because it's all been low lights, isn't it, the last year?
Yeah, definitely.
I like the look of him. I know we're going to talk about him later, but I like the look of him. He's positive. The signings he's made of what I've asked for in past episodes we've done, buying those guys that we don't really know about and turning them into stars like this young Malaysia, hopefully. And Martinez, I know obviously we're paying a lot of money for Martinez in the end, but I think because they know we're desperate and we're going to pay it. Good old United, we could, because I mean it was muted at 35 million to start with. But yeah, overall I'm really positive.
Good stuff.
Looking forward to it.
Good stuff. Let's go to Matt next, because obviously we will get Ali's thoughts, but we haven't heard anything from you because you're a new guest, Matt. So how was last season for you as a Man United fan? I assume you're going to say it probably wasn't the best, but talk us through, your experience last year, Matt, and offer us a highlight and a not so highlight as well, mate.
Yeah, well, so I took a sabbatical. I was like a Deal Town fan for a year because they were pretty decent before I'd go on the glory trail a little bit. But no, I mean, it was awful, right? There's no real redeeming features to it. But if Jason sort of stole my gimmick about the highlight and the lowlight. For me, it's one and the same. It's Ralf Rangnick, the German Roy Hodgson. He kind of came in, revealed to us all the things that needed to be sort of fixed, but he also, and showed up some of the cracks, whether it's in the way that we play, the way that we go and sign players, the way that we, all the stuff that's maybe going on in the background that we kind of gave us a little bit of an insight to. But by unintended consequences, he also showed us why he shouldn't be part of the club, right? He was divisive. He clearly didn't get the respect of the players. I think it's okay to point out that there are things wrong and all the rest of it, but if you're brought in to bring solutions and galvanize people. And I don't think he did any of that. I think he was pretty poor. And I think Ten Hag did well just to kind of say, no, this is my club now. And I actually like that as a sign coming in, that he's like, nah, you're nothing to do with what I'm going to do. I've got a vision. So yeah, highlight and the low light, I guess, for him.
Fair enough. Yeah, for me, I'm not going to offer an extended view, but I think, yeah, Mr. Rangnick, almost like you say, Matt, he highlighted what was everything that was wrong with the club, but then in a sense for me, facilitated that negativity to increase in a sense. He highlighted it without seeming to do anything to stamp it out. Ali, you're always
on that point. If Alex Ferguson, you never saw him throw anyone under the bus, right? Yeah. If they was going to be thrown on the bus, they just get sold, they get yap stammed or something. Like he would take care of business behind the scenes, protect his players. He was throwing players under the bus. It was really poor towards the end. It was also almost farcical with him.
Farcical is a good word for towards the end of the season, and sadly the early part of this transfer window. We'll discuss that because that's got a bit more positive. Ali, you've always offer wonderful insight. No, you do. Wow. And some of we had a wonderful discussion after you'd sort of offered up that point last year on one of our chats, or last season on one of our chats, where the club seemed to have been responsible for sort of making one big marquee signing and thinking that will appease the fan base, that, the global fan base, the fan base who give up their hard-earned cash to buy tickets and attend the ground weekly. That was a wonderful discussion. And what have you got for us on this point, Ali? It's probably some stuff we've discussed in the past, but could you give us just some quick thoughts?
Well, yeah, it won't take very long, to be honest. I mean, I'm 50 years plus a Man United fan. Been through the highs, the lows, the relegation season, but last year probably one of the lowest points of all that time, really. To be honest, 6th place in the league, that is unacceptable, isn't it, for Man United? Yeah. But the hierarchy, some of them seem to accept it. It's just not a position we can be in, is it, at Manchester United? We cannot be 6th place acceptable. Real lows last season. In terms of high points, scratching my head. I agree with Jay that probably if I was singling out a player, it would be Ronaldo. And to be honest, without being frivolous, probably when the referee blew the final whistle in the final game of the season, when Palace beat us 1-0, that was season over. That was a high point for me because it's gone. And we can move on to this season. I just wanted the year over, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I think everyone did. And I guess, we can be, my friend, mine and Jay's sort of friend, Mr. Ian Kinley, a Liverpool fan, a greenkeeper, he'll be watching on with great glee that we're all highlight. He said, I've missed the weekly chats where you guys do nothing but they get stuck into your appalling club. And I think last year it beat the fan out of me, to be honest. I can hang in there. I like to think I can hang in there with the best of them, but towards the end, I was switching off at half time. I wasn't even checking to see if we were on to it in the last few weeks of the season. And that's unlike me, really. Football, I don't know. It knocked the stuffing out of me, and I feel a bit sad saying that, but I try to be honest on these chats, and I became a very poor fan, but the club didn't do anything to show me that they were trying to change that. Jay, in the off season, we've obviously brought a new manager in. Do you want to? You just offered us some brief thoughts on Erik ten Hag. He's come from Ajax. He's come. He was in charge of that side that one kick of Lucas's one and only performance in a Tottenham shirt. They were minus that performance, and they'd have found themselves in a Champions League final playing wonderful football that was sort of being lauded and applauded all over Europe. He's come from another successful season with Ajax. He looks like he might be bringing half the squad with him. But can you expand a little bit on your thoughts on Mr. Ten Hag, Jay?
Yeah, I really like the look of him. He's back to kind of taking control of things himself. And I tell you what gave it away for me was they keep reporting that, Pau Torres was ready to be signed from Villarreal. He didn't want him. He wanted this money. And, the club were ready to sign. So that's proof in what I've been saying before is like the club have been buying players and the manager's just been able to get on with it. I think the time has come now is, no, I want him. And he's going with what he knows works. He knows he can trust those players. And, yeah, they're going to have to adapt to the Premier League, but no different if we bought them from wherever in Europe or afar. They'd still have to adjust. So he's got the trust. They know how he works. So that's a head start on anything else. I just think the way he talks. I watched that interview last night on MUT, but it was on the app thing. But very good the way he speaks, positive. And I don't think anybody's going to mess with him. And we ain't had that since Fergie, because if that Woodward or any of them above him said, yeah, here's a player to play with, Ferguson would have taken right off about it. Yeah. They ain't gonna, and I think that's why Ollie didn't play Van der Beek. For no other reason than he didn't want him. He was after Grealish, 65 million. He had that smashing his Range Rover on lockdown. You know what the club are like, oh, that's no good for selling shirts and all the rest of it. Yeah, you can have him for 40 million. He's 25 million cheaper. Hopefully gone are the days of that. So we can look forward. I'm really positive about it. You've got to be really after last year, because you said we hit rock bottom. You've got to grab something, haven't you?
Yeah.
I think all looking good. And I think the signings he's making are good, positive signings, people he wants. That's the thing that, to me, is the main thing.
That's huge. Matt, so we've, since Ferguson's left the club, we've had some huge high-profile managers. Van Gaal, obviously Moyes had a proven track record at a middle of the road, high middle of the road Everton, but Van Gaal had led Barcelona to European Cups, managed all over the world, and obviously Jose Mourinho was the special one, potentially still is the special one. But these guys couldn't, or doesn't appear that they were able to make the signings they want. Do you think Ten Hag has finally come in and broken the back of that sort of regime, Matt? Then he's going to the club. They are going to hand over the reins almost Ferguson-esque.
I think the proof will be in the pudding. I mean, football's changed since. You can look, directors of football and scouting and segregating some of that from responsibilities of the head coach or the manager. I think that's here to stay. That happens at at Man City, it happens at Tottenham, it happens at Liverpool, right? But I think the difference is that I'm actually a little bit of a Mourinho apologist. We have a player we have a coach now that has a vision, has a style of play, and knows what players will fulfill that vision. And I think Jason made a point earlier about Ronaldo. with Ronaldo and his team, you have to like tailor your play and your style to suit him, and that's not the way that football can work. For you know, if you're particularly going to be a high pressing team, which is where you know a lot of these teams are now, you've got to be able to have the autonomy to, you know, bring in the players that you want. And I think, you know, going back, Van Gaal had a clear style of play, but it was clear at that point, Man United had entered this phase of, we're going to buy marquee names and players, and it's going to be a group of misfits as opposed to a team that's kind of cohesive and knows, you know, the style of play, the vision, the outcomes that they're sort of responsible for. So I think the proof will be in the pudding. The early signs are good that he's kind of made some strides seemingly with some of the players that weren't performing as the season closed out. I mean, Martial being one of those. But, you know, Rangnick had everyone pressing in the first half against Crystal Palace, right? And then lost them at the end of the season. It's all going to be about consistency and sustainability of that. But I feel quite hopeful about it. I really do. I think that with Rangnick coming in and kind of talking all the malarkey that he did, and maybe opening the kimono on some of that stuff, you know, and Woodward moving out, there's just probably some things that we can do now that we can think about. And, you know, I think also some of the players leaving, Pogba, etc., the characters there that, you know, dominant. You know, when Chelsea fell apart, that was led by the locker room, right? It was Terry's team, it was Lampard's team, it was Drogba's team. They all kind of ran managers out of town they didn't like. And it kind of felt like we were in that situation with some of the players that we've had over the last few years. And I think nothing revealed to me more where we'd fallen to was actually that season that Pochettino took Tottenham to the Champions League final. I would watch Tottenham and think, that is a team that plays more than the sum of its parts. And they all enjoy playing with each other. When I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen a Man United team that actually went on the field and looked like they enjoyed playing with each other, or, you know, wanted to make the extra pass. It wasn't about whether they scored or whatever. So we'll see. The cautiously optimistic coming into the season with Ten Hag, and I think he's saying the right things. I think if he gets the right backing, I think we could be extraordinarily successful.
Yeah. And if we go down to Ali, it looks like he's certainly got some good backing, Ali. And if we sort of touch on a couple of, we come to you, Ali, we obviously won't have time to go to everyone on every single point I've got on my run sheet. But if we come to you, Ali, and have a look at these sort of two new signings coming from the Airy division. Some might call it a Farmers League. I think I might have called it a Farmers League before. But Malacia, this sort of promising left back, and Lisandro from Ajax. Malacia, however we pronounce it. I've seen the YouTube put together. I can't say I'd ever heard of him before we looked at signing him, but you know, he looks very promising. I think that's what YouTube promotional videos are meant to make him look like. But can you offer some thoughts, Ali, and Lisandro? Are they calling him the butcher of Amsterdam? There was who was the Barcelona? Yeah. Who was the butcher of Barcelona? The Spanish centre half. I can't remember his name. But what's your thoughts on those two as signings, Ali, and the direction the club with the new manager sort of seem to be going signings wise?
I think a lot of the points Matt made are absolutely right. I just hope Ten Hag's got the balls to stand up to the hierarchy, you know, and to do things his own way, which is something that I don't think Ollie was able to do, really. I mean, he started the right way, hasn't he? Like Matt was saying about the clear out, he's got rid of the Pogbas, Mata, Lingard, people like that, you know, players who didn't want to be there, who shouldn't be there. So that's almost as important as the new signings, because it frees up money for new signings. And we all know the Glazers are all about money. And if we generate some money from selling players, that means we've got that much more to spend on the players that we want. So I hope that's moving in the right way. And I hope he just does the right thing there. In terms of the new signings, Malacia, yep. We've got to be careful not to overhype him too soon. You know, he's very young, he's very raw, looks good. First two games I've seen him. He's going to put pressure on Luke Shaw, isn't he, in that left-back position? Probably means we can offload Telles, who I'm not a great fan of. Brandon Williams, good player, but not a Man United player. So let's get 10 million for them and have two good left-backs. Ericsson,
Yes, forgot to mention him. Sorry.
Ericsson's got to be a good signing. Proven quality world-class player. Obviously, everything he's been through. I imagine his fitness test must have been pretty rigorous for us to take him on. But
no, we're pretty desperate.
Well, the only thing that worries me with Ericsson again, it's a Glazer signing, isn't it? You can see them rubbing their hands together, can't you? Oh, look, we've got a free transfer. We haven't had to pay any money for him. He hasn't cost us anything.
But we wanted him. Ten Hag did want him.
Yeah.
And he gave him that opportunity at Ajax to go and train after his heart attack. So there is a bit of history there. So
I'm really pleased that we've got him. But you see my point on the Glazers.
Yeah,
they love a free transfer, don't they?
I was that to say that he is a player that is wanted by him.
Yeah, and if he fits into our midfield, which we knew he had to have a complete and utter overhaul, didn't it? He does fit into that. Then finally, the best sign on the lot, Lisandro Martinez, a player who actually wanted to come and play for Man United, didn't he, really? Yeah. Argentinian international, got a bit of the South American devil in him. We needed that, didn't we, really? Whether or not he's going to pair up with Varane, whether he's going to pair up with Maguire, that remains to be seen. But I think
it's been said today that it looks like Ten Hag is favouring pairing him with Maguire.
Yeah.
So that's we will see. But yeah, I cut you off, Ali. Carry on, mate.
No, that's all. It just means that hopefully we won't see our carnival pairing of Magalov playing too often this season.
Well, let's before we sort of move on, let's just, because I thought Argentinian centre backs in the Premier League, I couldn't really think of too many, but I've got a few names in front of me. Martin Di Michelis was at Man City a few years ago. He came with a pretty good reputation and ended up not doing too much for them. I forgot we had a fairly sort of good Argentinian left back in a similar sort of ilk, Gabriel Heinze. Wasn't a bad player.
He had the passion, but not the skill to go with it, didn't he?
Yeah. There was Christian Romero at Tottenham. I think is probably towards the end of last season, and certainly in Tottenham's pre-season is looking very good. So if Lisandro could come in and sort of perform at that sort of level in his first season, I think we'd be doing well. Anyone who remembers Mr. Colaccini, was he at Newcastle? I don't remember him being all that much cop, but
Marcus Rojo.
Yeah, we had Rojo, didn't we? Zabaleta, if he could come in and do a Pablo Zabaleta as an Argentinian defender, I think we'd be happy with that, wouldn't we? Even though he ended up at West Ham. But that was just a little bit of fun there. Jay, Ali sort of mentioned the guys we have signed, and we went on, we talked for hours and hours last year about the midfield, and all of a sudden Fred and McTominay would have a good performance, and we thought finally we've cracked it and they can sort of fit in and Bruno can do his thing, and then all of a sudden we'd lose 3 in a trot and wouldn't hear anything of them, and McTominay was crap and we were moaning about the midfield. If we can sign Frankie de Jong, the player who doesn't seem to be making the right noises about joining our wonderful club, would that solve a lot of the problems, Jay, or could it end up? I know you've got some fairly sort of good, strong opinions on him.
I think the trouble is, I think you've got to read between the lines, haven't you? He's clearly owed £17 million and he wants that before he moves. They're not going to pay it, so he's saying he don't want to go. Ten Hag seems fairly confident with reading between the lines. I'm really impressed with that Zidane, Iqbal and Charlie Savage as a pairing.
Yeah.
Not saying they're the answer by any means to the equation, but we've got Ericsson there. I like Fred, the newer Fred, if you like.
Yeah.
And we're going to be defending a lot higher. So I think I'd be quite happy with him in the midfield.
Agreed.
But these lads coming through, we need to use them if they're good. If they're going to be good enough, we need to use them. This De Jong, he's got all his eggs in one basket there. It worries me because we've been burnt before with Fabregas, with David Moyes. We ended up with Blaney, didn't we? We've got a good squad there. He's got rid of the rotten stuff, I think. The only one that worries me is Martial, which he's clearly on fire at the moment. A good Martial's great, but I think he's one of those that's affected so badly with confidence. If Ronaldo's going to stay, that's him. He's just going to deflate again. I think, you know, and this is the trouble. We've been there too many times with too many different managers now. You know, I really thought it was time for him to go and let's get another forward. I mean, we got our fingers burnt badly with Greenwood because I do think he was the man. He could play left, right, and in the middle. But, you know, that bus has gone now. So I still think we need to buy somebody up front.
Yeah, no. That's
not too sure who it is, but I think, you know, we need to buy somebody up front that comes without the baggage of being a top scorer, somebody that's maybe a bit younger that can play in the team one week, not the other, kind of, and hit the ground. A bit like Hernandez was.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Good. I know they're hard to find, aren't they? But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we could find another sort of Mexican little P, that would be quite wonderful. Yeah. Matt, a role I assume you fulfilled growing up in your sort of multi-sport career as probably a captain or a vice captain on many an occasion. I've just sort of touched at the start of the podcast that I read or heard today that, I read before that Harry Maguire Ten Hag has said, you know, he was captain last year and he hasn't seen enough of the club to disrupt the apple cart in a sense. So he will go into the new season with Harry Maguire as his captain. Are you happy? One, are you happy with that? And two, if you're not happy, what would your thoughts be on the captaincy? You know, in my notes, I've got potentially someone like David De Gea as captain. He's going to play every week. But I mean, me and Jay have had chats at work that sometimes a goalie as a captain doesn't quite sort of fit the current makeup of football captains. What's your thoughts, Matt?
Well, I thought we all knew that David De Gea didn't even shout to come out for a corner, did he? So, I mean, what's he going to do as a captain? I think, look, Harry Maguire as captain, take away all the derision, the comedy value about some of his form last year. His form for England was good. He was still getting selected for England. There's clearly quality there. I think he having to play across, whether it was the left centre back, you know, where he has to become more of a ball carrier, protecting the ball with his shoulder, versus when he's on the right centre, he's more of a ball passer, like changing that role, some of the injury stuff. I don't think it's a fair reflection on where he's been. I mean, he's been a quality player. He probably needs to get some fitness and sharpness back. But then, you know, where else would you go for a captain? Who else has got a guaranteed starting spot other than the De Gea? Like, you've got Luke Shaw, no. You know, Fred, McTominay. I mean, I think Ten Hag will move on from one of them as the earliest opportunity. You know, the forward players, or even Rashford, a lovely lad, but hardly a leader of men. And so I think there's just a lot. I think he's stuck with what he's got for now until he kind of figures out, you know, puts his footprint on or fingerprint on the club and says, right, this is where we're going, this is who I've got, and this is who my leader is. And I think also it's something of a statement to Ronaldo, who probably had designs on this, that, and the other, and wanted to run things himself and kind of upset some of that. It's like, no, this is my guy, and Ronaldo, you're going to fall in line or you're going to be out of line, right? Yeah. So I think that's the rub of it. Don't think we have any other option at this point.
No, I don't mind it. Yeah, I'd said again, me and Jay sort of chat at work. We work together. I'd sort of mentioned potentially someone like Bruno, because he should be starting every game. He's, you know, but Jay, you weren't convinced, and I don't really know if I'm 100%.
Bruno, when did the Bruno we saw in that first season? He was electric, but. Yeah. When was the game? Which game could you turn around and say, "Oh, Bruno put the team on his shoulder and said, don't worry, lad, we've got going to win it."
I don't think
he didn't have any of that last night. He was timid, and I don't know whether it was playing in the shadow of Ronaldo or what. But I mean, he's got to answer a few questions this year for me. Fernandez is to his value to the team. I think he's quality, and I'm not saying that in a way that I'm negative on him, but he's got to have a bounce back season himself. Under, you know. While everyone kind of ripped into Harry Maguire as a bit of the laughing stock and, you know, a bit overweight, a bit podgy, meanwhile, under the radar, Fernandez had a bit of a rubbish season or an inconsistent season.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think with Harry Maguire, just to come in, Stu, we've been quite critical of him, haven't we, on this pod over the times?
I think
but
fairly at times.
At times, yeah. But to be honest, there is no standout other candidate. You know, if he gets his form back, he is the best choice as captain, isn't he? But
do you think I've got a theory here? He said he's going to give him a go again. Once Martinez has got his feet under the table, I've got a feeling he'll go for him.
But I see, he'll play the left centre back.
Yeah,
he's naturally left-footed, and if we're going to press that bit higher, that means the fullbacks get further forward.
Yeah.
He's going to have to slip back into that left channel and then be left-footed coming out. I think you're better off when Maguire is consistently the right. He can slip back. Varane, look, that therein lies that he is the poster child of a name signing versus a system signing. Right? We should have signed like Nathan Ake or a left-footed centre back when we needed one, and we signed him. He's been injury prone. Like, he was at Real Madrid. Like, they could barely get a game out of him. And
they don't sell their best players, Matt, do they?
No. So I don't know how we can rely upon him. I think that Maguire is going to get consistency, get a bit of form. And yeah, it's also unfortunately going to be a season though. We're going to have to rely on someone like Eric Bailey, right? He's Ivory Coast. He's not going to the World Cup, and there's going to be all these disruptions with World Cup players going off, and we're actually going to have to look at where our depth is and some of those players that we're going to have to play in the meantime.
You've got a very good point there, because that World Cup is like something we don't know. We've never experienced it.
Yeah.
But not wanting to get injured before it because they don't want to miss it. Not play like they would do. You know, it's like at the end of the season when a World Cup's coming up, people don't get stuck in today. They don't want to hurt themselves.
Yeah,
we're going to need these players that ain't involved in it, definitely.
Just one final Maguire point, Stu, before we finish off on him.
Yeah, go on.
Absolute madness today. He was getting booed by United fans.
Yeah,
when his name was read out, he was booed, and some of them were actually booing his every touch. Absolute madness. You don't do that as a United fan, do you?
That's that.
Bloody awesome, they don't bloody know what they're doing.
They're not fans who do that, are they?
Australian fan base.
Well, yeah.
You know, we've touched on it a few times, Ali. I'll come to you on this point. We've touched on it a few times already on this chat today. A few players, I was guilty. I thought we'd actually sold Anthony Martial to at some point last year. We hadn't. He's still around. Lingard and Mata have moved on or have expired. Martial is still around. Phil Jones was going off to become wine tasting in Bordeaux or something, wasn't he? And that's fallen through. So, Ali, where are we with someone like Jones? I think where he's
I'll tell you one fantastic bit of business we did, Stu. Getting 10 million for Pereira.
Yes. Is that to Fulham?
Yeah, 10 million plus 3 million in add-ons. That is serious business, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like Jay said, if we could sort of get that sort of money, or if you said it, Ali, if we could sort of money for Brandon,
do that 4 times, we buy a 50 million good player, don't we?
Yeah, but let's talk about potentially the elephant in the room then, Ali. Anthony Martial, we've crucified him. Jay's driven him to the airport on at least 3 podcasts last year. I described him as in a few not very polite words myself. I thought we'd sold him. We hadn't. That would teach me to do more research. We love, are we fickle in the sense that he is performing? I've seen the highlights. He's scoring goals, but we still know that Anthony Martial of the last 2.5 years is still there, isn't he, Ali?
There's no other player that divides opinion like Tony Marshall, is there, to be honest?
Well, maybe.
No, we love singing his song, don't we? Everyone's just willing him to do well, aren't they? And, I mean, today, Matt said at the start, the new pressing Anthony Marshall. He was pressing today. When someone else scored, he smiled, didn't he? He smiled and put his arm around him, I mean, talent, all the talent in the world. And if Ten Hag is the manager that we hope he is, he maybe will get that out of him. That's all I hope, really, because if he does, he's a player, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
It's quite fortuitous, isn't it, Ali? There's a lot of last chance saloon scenarios for United this year, like whether it's at the board and at the backroom level. Like we talked about Ten Hag earlier, like Ten Hag can't really fail, because the backroom stuff, like the board and that, they can't afford for him to fail. They've been hapless. Like Martial was awful on loan, and was it Sevilla? He went to Sevilla.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Like he's in last chance saloon. Like he goes to French Division 2 or something. His next move. It's not. He doesn't get another chance anywhere. We've got a few players in that last chance saloon that we'll see will make or break them, and maybe
if one of those players take it up, it's like a new signing, isn't it? Because Rashford was just as bad as he was last year.
Yeah, no, Jay.
I know he missed a penalty in the final of the Euros and that, but whether that's it or what, I don't know. Something just deflated him.
The thing with Martial is he can play the number 9 role better than Rashford can, because he can play with his back to goal and he can hold it up.
Yeah, no,
that's something he can do that Marcus can't do. Marcus can drift out and play on the left, but Tony Martial can actually play a number 9 role when he's running, when his mind's in it, when he's happy, and he's a finisher.
You're dead right, but we've got 2 players there that we're relying on. What are the chances both of them come good? I hope they bloody do, because Rashford, world class when he's on.
And we're also ignoring the fact that we could have Sancho sort of step up with that second season. Signs are promising with him. I mean, the real elephant in the room up front is where would we be if the Greenwood debacle hadn't kind of played out? Because that guy was probably could be the difference maker this year.
He was, if you like, he was the thing. Like I said earlier, he play on the left, right, centre, and score with both feet, head. He was exactly what we need now. Exactly what we need now.
Is he a complete and utter write-off?
Good question. I mean, if he's exonerated of all the accusations, like he's not guilty. It's probably impossible for a media and the social media hounding scenario, and it's not the right thing, believe all whatever. But I'm of the opinion with all of these things, like you either, if these things happen, you do your time, and you should have the time and the chance to rehabilitate and you can grow, or if you're proven innocent, or there's nothing to stand trial for, that you have the opportunity to come back to where you were. But the reality is very different.
Do you think that'd be at United? We haven't backed him. All his players, all his mates, teammates have dropped him, haven't they?
Yeah, but I mean, how much of that is?
I know they have to.
They feel forced into do it because of the all the It's a hard one.
Being at work, isn't
it's a hard one.
And people around you don't want you. Is he going to go Chelsea or somebody else?
I think beyond what the accusations were, I think there were some attitude issues and that were kind of happening.
Yeah,
already, that's surfacing and all the rest of it, by all accounts, and some of the things you heard coming out of the club and what have you. But it's a shame. It's probably more likely to be another Ravel Morrison than it is, the next great thing for us.
Yeah.
Moving past Mr. Greenwood, and I guess as that develops going forward, we could sort of, when the decisions have been made or the full facts. Well, I think the full, if that voice recording is proven to be, true and reliable, then I'm sure he will be dealt with by the legal system. Greenwood apart, Jay. Let's not go too in depth on the Ronaldo situation. I know, again, we've discussed it's not great timing. Had he been making these noises at the end of last season, in the week or two after a very disappointing season, making noises about wanting Champions League football, etc., that would almost acceptable. Not literally as they're refuel or fueling the plane to go on pre-season tour, dropping the bombshell. How does that Man United front line up for you, Jay? Bit of a tough question. Matt's mentioned Mr. Sancho looking good in pre-season. I don't think the club really looked after a marquee signing really last year. No. How does that front line look for you going into the first game if everyone's fit, Jay?
It's a flip of a coin now with Ronaldo, isn't it? does he join the party? I don't really think he's welcome to the party, if I'm honest. You know, I think he could probably do without the glamour around him. But I think if we can get the midfield working, I think the front looks after itself, with or without Ronaldo. Because if you give those kind of players enough opportunities, they're going to score goals in that. You know, especially if we get this Anthony or somebody out along them lines, you know, you're going to have a lot of pace up front. And Rashford, Martial, Sancho, this fella Anthony, they can all score goals.
Yeah,
I do believe we do need to buy a new striker. Because I mean, Ronaldo, he's got to take his share of the blame last year. We went 10 games without scoring in those 12 games we were talking about that could have made a difference. It's not his fault, but it's all part of it. It's a team game, and that's what we've got to get back to, team. And they're part of the team.
I think our rivals across the city, and let's not give them too much praise on this podcast, but I mean, if you look at some of the performances they put in, and we are not Man City, we don't move the ball like Man City, but you know, they played almost the whole of last season without a recognised striker. You know, they had people like Jesus on the bench, but you know, the football they were playing, they were playing such great football, almost like you say, Jay. They were creating the chances for the forward players, but not necessarily the struggle. They were playing such good football that they were just creating chances that were there to be taken.
Those players I mentioned are world-class players in their own right.
Yeah,
if you can get them playing again with another, I think we ain't too far from that. If we can get the midfield base and, like he says, control the game. That's what we haven't done now for many a year. You know, we'd have Crystal Palace coming to Old Trafford having 65%.
19 shots.
Hoping we're going to get 2 breakaway goals on a counter-attack. That's not United. You know, he's going to get us back up the pitch. So hopefully we're going to get a lot more chances. And these guys, he says wipe the slate clean. If we can't get anybody else, we're going to have to wipe the slate clean. But I do believe we need another striker.
Yeah, I agree.
That, Matt, go on, mate.
Well, so there's been a lot of driving to the airport. He's probably got a private plane lined up already, Cristiano, but I think he's got to go. I mean, hey, credit to Man City. I think they duped us into signing him. They were never going to sign him. He, you know, it doesn't press. It was a nostalgia, you know, marquee signing, but it wasn't a player we needed. And I can see why you bring him in, because the discipline, the application to his, you know, to his craft that he puts in is clearly second to none. He's still a phenomenal athlete, but his own sporting mentality and how debilitating it is for Rashford or whatever if Ole did indeed have a system, which I'm not convinced he did, but when you get Ronaldo gesticulating in the middle of the pitch because the ball didn't go to him when he wanted it, and there was actually the better decision was a different ball, created confusion. I just think that people started to doubt themselves and what they were doing. I think he'll be addition by subtraction. I'll be very interested to see how Fernandes plays without the presence of Ronaldo there. I mean,
absolutely.
Biggest for me, that seems to be the biggest factor in the change in how Fernandes plays was the introduction of Ronaldo, and it's kind of been the same at Portugal level, right? So,
yeah, I think for all his 24 goals, the sum total of all the parts was he undermined a lot of players, didn't he, at United last year? And they underperformed.
Him and Pogba were, I mean, I don't know. A bit. There's part of me there's a bit of a Pogba apologist, but I think he was a cancer to the team. And
yeah, right. Mourinho called him a virus. He was dead right. Come twice now and left for nothing to the same team.
Yeah,
I mean, we are mugs big time.
Ali, you're a man. I'm sure you've probably got 5 or 6 fantasy football league teams already put in. You're a man who likes his stats. He likes to have a bet, researches his betting. I'm going to come to you first and ask you what looks like, you know, pitch me a good, successful first season for Erik ten Hag and this current squad. Let's say we don't add anyone. We don't add the striker. I think we're going to struggle to add a proven striker. Maybe De Jong comes to join us. But what do you see as, I don't know if acceptable or successful is the word I'm looking for, Ali. What would you be happy with if at the end of the season?
Can you ask me that same question after all the signings have happened or not happened?
No, because this podcast is going to go out before then.
No. If we make the signings that I hope we're going to do.
What are those signings first then, Ali?
Well, if we get De Jong,
yeah,
and we get a forward player and potentially another right back, what would be a good season for me? Silverware, which could be the Emmerdale Cup, or it could that's the Europa, by the way.
I don't know. I don't even know what we're playing in Europe.
No, and I have to be realistic. Getting top three, I suppose, beating off Spurs, Chelsea, and finishing closer to Liverpool and City because we are so far behind them. I guess third place and some silverware. Hate saying that as a United fan, but I have to be realistic, I think, really.
No, that's fair enough. Jay, is Ali sort of said third place and some silverware? I don't want to undermine what Ali says. I'm not going to ask you, is that realistic? I mean, where are we? We're off Liverpool and Man City. Are we going into this season level par with Chelsea and Spurs, or do you see us? I mean, I see us a little bit lacking still, that Chelsea squad.
Yeah. The trouble is with me, cut my arm off. It's red, white, and black. I go into each season expecting to win every competition we go in, and I'm starting
brilliant,
capable of doing that again, excluding probably the Premier League. But I challenge second place,
right?
Personally, all right, it's a big call, but unless you aim high, all this aiming for fourth place, that ain't in our DNA. That ain't that. All that. If that's what managers target, we're always going to fail. I'm not saying he should go for the Premier League, but why shouldn't? Leicester got to the final last year. What was it last year? I don't know. But
they beat us in an awful game, didn't they?
Yeah. Why can't we get the final win? 2 years ago we got to 4 semi-finals, was it, or 3 semi-finals in 1 year under Ollie?
Yeah.
Do that.
2 semis and a final, was it? One
a bit to get over, but if we get some good signings, I expect to challenge to win all of them. I'm not saying we're going to, but I'd like to at least one pot, maybe the European pot. I think we've got to be favourites for Europa anyway. Surely.
Let's switch it around a little bit. Come to you, Matt. How do you see the league shaping up, Matt? And where do you see Man United slipping? For me, I'll sort of offer my thoughts. For me, I see Man City and what they've added to the squad. I see them probably winning the league some point in late March. Liverpool and Chelsea and us and Spurs squabbling it out. But if I'm perfectly honest, I don't see us fighting all the way to the end against that. Where do you pitch us in the league? And also who do you see it as a Liverpool Man City fight for first again, Matt?
It's an interesting season, right? We had the COVID season, which was City's when we had in last year as well. Like City have just got too much squad depth at this point, and they can put 200 million pounds worth of defenders on the bench. Although interestingly, they seem to be jettisoning a lot of players, which makes me think they've got another big signing coming somewhere along the line. But I think Tottenham, I like the Tottenham signings. I think they've made some shrewd purchase. I mean, Maddison is a great signing for them. That Basuma is a great signing for them. I think they'll move forward. I might even have them nudge in front of Chelsea. But all the teams, they've got more depth than we have. They can bring on more players that are like for like in quality than we can at this moment in time. I think, my expectation is progress, and it comes from a very low bar. I mean, if Man United had been playing in my back garden last season, I would have closed the curtains.
Yeah.
I
And
wouldn't cut the grass.
yeah, and we need progress. And I think we have to go for a trophy, one of the cups, an FA Cup, a Carabao Cup, a Europa, whatever Conference Cup. We have to be seen to be going for something, and we have to win something. I think the league, I could still see us slip outside of Champions League contention, but at the same time, we have the unknown of the World Cup. Which players go where, who gets injured. There's a lot of variables that we haven't seen. Who covers best when they come back, like who can then get reintegrated in their squad. There's just a lot out there, but I think it's going to come down to who's got the squad depth, and I just don't think we have it at this point in time. I think we'll be fighting that 4th, 5th spot.
Gives me a great opportunity to ask Ali a question, and I don't know if we're able to answer.
Do you not see him mouthing something to himself as if he's
No, he probably knows what I'm coming to.
Tell him before you even asked it.
Ali, to me, we are still 2 injuries away from McTominay and Fred being the driving force of that midfield. And that worries me.
Don't forget the youngsters.
Yeah, I do. I see that, Jay.
One of the pre-season ones I was really looking forward to seeing, and it's a shame she's been injured, is James Garner.
Yeah, we've got him as well. There's 3 other players there.
Those 2 roles, couldn't he really? Fantastic season at Forest, you know. I was looking forward to seeing him play, but he's picked up an injury, hasn't he? But he could play one of those 2 roles, I hope. And out of the 2, I'm a bit with you there, Jay. I think Fred is the one who really should be encouraged in the new role under Ten Hag.
Yeah, I think further up the pitch, he's an asset. Yeah. Well, you know, when we're playing deep, he is not an asset at all. He's a liability, much like Pogba was. We had too many people that would lose the ball in front without having to go back. But, you know, if we're using a high line and most of our players are in there half, perfect. Yeah, I think.
You make an interesting point, Ali, actually, and you, Stu, like, and it kind of alludes to, like, when Ten Hag's under pressure, what will his decision be? Will it be to revert to familiarity in a Fred and a McTominay, or will it be to be courageous and go, do you know what, Zidane Iqbal, you're going to get a game? And, you know, one thing that you could point to with Ferguson, he was unafraid to make a bold choice or decision, whether it's a fielding a youngster, throwing someone in there. So I think it'll be interesting just to see what he does revert to when the pressure comes, because there's going to be a bad run of games. There's going to be some frustration with performances. And I think it'll be interesting to see how he reacts to that and how he freshens things up.
I think that's why we've gone for Ten Hag, though. I mean, you know, he was famed for bringing youngsters through and making more average players better. I mean, Tadic, for example. I mean, the Premier League players went out there and he turned them into an absolute winner. And same as poor old Sebastian Haller. Well, it's some very good news today here. But
he's moved to Germany and had some very bad news today. Yeah. Hopefully it's
that's
just rip it out right. We're nearly at the end, guys. There's so much to go through. You know, next time we get together, there'll hopefully be a few more signings. But I'm just going to put everyone on the spot, and this can change going forward to the next podcast. I'm going to ask for your Premiership top 4s going into next season. I know it's early. The transfer window isn't closed, but Jay, pitch me a top 4.
Won't be a popular one. I wouldn't have thought of it as in people asking, but I'm going to go City, United, Liverpool, Tottenham.
United, Liverpool, Tottenham. Matt?
City, Liverpool.
Yeah.
Tottenham, Chelsea.
Tottenham, Chelsea. Ali?
Heart or head? City?
Yeah.
Head. Liverpool?
Yeah.
Head.
Yeah.
Man United?
Yeah.
Heart. Chelsea? Head.
Chelsea. I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I can't see past City. I can see Tottenham finishing second, and then it's going to be anywhere between United and I'm going to let United, Chelsea, and Liverpool. Let's put.
You made the bold choice. I didn't make. Tottenham at second. I think that's a good call.
Let's put Chelsea third and Man United fourth. Sorry, Liverpool, but I don't think that's going to happen. Guys, Anything you want to say? Because I put these ideas out there. You're as integral to this podcast as I am. I'm just the guy who hits record. Anything you want to discuss now? Anything you want to pitch going forward for the next podcast?
I've got a quick pop quiz question for it. What is Ten Hag going to do with Van der Beek?
Very good question. Let's answer it. Let's see if Ali wants to answer that.
I think he might use him as a bait for another player because he hasn't really figured in pre-season, and when he has played, he hasn't looked great, to be honest.
Did he come up with an assist today? Was that today?
Yeah, very good assist.
Yeah, actually, he did give. Yeah, it was a good assist today. Yeah, but the game before, I think the Melbourne game, he didn't look great. I don't know. Jury's out on Donny. Jury's out.
So
I've been intrigued that he hasn't started a single game.
Yeah.
There's been an introduction.
But he hasn't started a single game for 3 managers.
So is that telling a story?
He didn't set the world alight at Everton, did he?
It worried me that he went to Everton and Dele Alli went to Everton, and Van der Beek couldn't even get a start or come onto the pitch before one of the laziest sort of midfield players going at the moment. And I was a huge Dele Alli fan sort of 3 or 4 seasons ago when it came. Well,
me personally, I think Donny Van der Beek hides a bit. So we get the ball, he was always in between players or in between him. He's not showing for the ball enough. It's just a confidence thing.
But the theme of some of the things that we're being talked about with Ten Hag is that can he get the best out of the players? Can he kind of transform this? Like Van der Beek is known to him. If anyone can put him in the position to succeed and know what rings his bells, it's going to be Ten Hag. And it all seems weird to me that he's just been soft in terms of the way he reintroduces him into the squad and kind of builds up his confidence. But I think it's an intriguing thing to follow throughout the remainder of the summer and the transfer window.
I think he's quite a long way down the midfield pecking order, especially if we get the signings we're going to get as well.
Yeah.
And if Fred keeps scoring the worldies that he's scoring.
Yeah.
And the young lads keep playing like they're playing. I mean, they are really playing well. We're not just putting them in there. They're actually looking quite good, them 2 young lads. And like Ali said earlier, we've got James Garner as well.
Yeah.
All looking, I think, for that part of it. I think we should be a bit more confident.
Yeah.
It's the danger of reading too much into pre-season. I like Iqbal's decision making, the way he gets out of trouble and finds space.
It's the best crop of youngsters we've had for a while, and he's renowned for bringing youngsters through. I think, I'm not saying they're going to be the world beaters, but they are the ones that could fill our squad out a bit. They could come off the bench, and if we get injuries in the World Cup and things like that, they're not going to be involved. We're going to have to rely on people like that. Whether they're up for it or not, we'll see.
I'm buying it. Jason's glass is 3/4 full. I'm in.
In Ten Hag, we trust.
Jay is diehard.
Got to be positive.
Yeah. So I think
ask me on the 9th of August, and I might say something different. But
we'll all get together. Hopefully Liam can join us. We'll get together in say 3 or 4 weeks' time. Hopefully some signings will have been made. And we'll see how we get on. Let's wrap it up there, guys. Jay, Ali, Matt, as a sort of new guest to the Man United chat. Thanks so much for joining me on Henry Weston's Old Mate, the podcast Chatting Football. Don't forget to like this video on YouTube, and don't forget to give us a follow if you're listening to us. Gentlemen, thank you all so much for your time. Cheers, boys.
Thank you.
Thank you.